In America, 40 to 50% any marriages will end up divorce. But how we can keep ourselves civilized after divorce that does not hurt our kids? So, today in the studio, I have two amazing girls that are here to talk about that. They did something that most of us we can learn from and keep everything civilized for the future. Welcome, Sara and Delara Bahadori. I'm so happy I have you here, guys. Thank you for stopping by because I know you had a long day yesterday. You were in the wedding and you came all the way down to be in the show. That means a lot, guys. It means a lot. And we're going to talk about the subject that is close to many people's heart and nobody wants to talk about it. The divorce kids. How you can be civilized after divorce. You're two sisters, brilliant, and you keep the relationship with your steps so civilized, which is unbelievable. I talked to your mom, and then when she explained it to me, I said, I want to talk to your daughters. And she said, sure, because let me tell you something. A lot of people do not understand how to be civilized because at the end of the day, it's about the kids. It's not about excess. This is my understanding. I went through a divorce and I still have some suffering going through it, as I told you off the camera, but being civilized, we're going to talk about it. I don't know. It's an art, how you're going to keep that civilized and still love both parties. And I want to know how you guys did it. Tell me a little bit the story of how did everything started. When you came to the realization that, okay, he's my stepdad. And I got my dad. And for some reason, it didn't work out, but still, we are a family. How did you cope with that after the divorce?
You know, for me, I feel like I had never really... Our parents got divorced when we were super young, so that was always something that we were aware of. So we hadn't seen them, our parents, together, really. So I feel like that was helpful in, transitioning with all of that. But then I remember when my mom met Bill in 2008 and brought him back, like we absolutely loved him, but, we still were not really sure, like, where are we going to be staying? Like, where are we going to be living? Or like...
How old you were that time?
We were 7. Yeah. And I kind of remember how they told us. We were... we were crawling under like the kitchen island, just playing around, and my mom came up to us and we're like, hey, like, do you guys want to have 2 houses? And we were like, yeah, of course.
And you didn't know anything.
Yeah. And I was like, this is the best day ever. Like, I was so excited. And at that point, like, we had already been introduced to Bill, and he was already around and, like, being super, like, fatherly already. And, like, we just loved him because he was this guy that was, like, taking us on, like, to the park and, like, taking care of our hamster, Cinnamon. Yes. And I think, since we were 7, and our parents were together up until that point, they kind of decided before we were even born that they weren't going to stay together. And we can get more into this later, but Sara and I were miracle babies. And then, so that's why they kind of made it work until we were like 7. And then they found a time that it was like proper to break it off. And so, yeah, they never were like super, like, married lovey-dovey in front of us as children, so we kind of just thought they were like friends and like we lived with them. Yeah. So I personally never thought the transition was too hard, and since we were so young, it kind of happened seamlessly, in my opinion, personally. I don't know if you can speak to that.
No, definitely. Like you said, it helped having not seen our parents really in like a loving marriage, so we,
they loved each other.
What do you mean by loving?
I meant we didn't see them like,
very intimate.
Yes, exactly. Okay. They obviously loved each other, and they still have love for each other. but yeah, we never saw them intimately as acting as if a husband and wife, you
like
know.
PDA. Or
Like how I
anything.
see my mom and my stepdad now, and how I see my dad and my stepmom now. You know, I never saw my parents like that.
You didn't see that kind of intimate relationship, and you know it didn't really affect you as okay. If it's still the separate, I think it's going to be okay.
Yeah. I didn't think we even like registered what like romantic love was at 7 even yet. So I think it was good that they chose to do it then before even like 8 or 9, because then we probably would have asked more questions. But I don't think we even realized like people got married because they were in love with each other like romantically.
We didn't really understand.
But how did you adapt that new relationship with your mom, a stepdad? How did you adapt that? Because it's a new person into your life, and you will see that person often when you go there. You live with them. I'm sure you live with them for some time. What side, I don't know. But going through that and accepting that another person coming into your life as a stepmom or a stepdad, that sometimes can be very challenging, because I went through that. I have a stepdaughter, and she was rejecting. And I worked very hard, got her on my side. It was a really process, because it's all about the trust. It's about you have to build that trust. And then it's a two-way roads, but it's not easy. It's really not easy, because sometimes you have that rejection. That you say, who the hell is this guy? Who the hell is this lady that's going to act as my mother? You know, that was a challenge. How did you guys accept that? You said, okay, it is what it is. I got to, I got to deal with it.
You know, at a young age, I think it was easy to accept it. However, growing up, and I feel like entering the teenage years, is when I started to feel, not like I never resented them, but I just was kind of like
questioning.
Yeah, I'm like, who are you? In my teenage brain, there were some times where I thought maybe my stepfather was influencing my mom to do things that, she may not have done previously, like if she hadn't been with him. So, but I think, that's just all comes with that age. I remember my mom really sat down with me, and she's like, what? This man is doing nothing but good things for you, So that was when I really was like, okay, maybe I am just being a little too dramatic right now, and I need to be able to open up to give him a chance. Same thing with my stepmom. I felt like she was, I always felt as if I was daddy's girl. So I felt like maybe she was kind of taking my place a little bit. I remember her and I having some conflict, especially when I was around 16 years old. But, it took some time for both of our ends to really understand where we were both coming from. And then I think, all of it, I think maturity and growing up had things to do with it, of helping me accept her in his life as well. So
yeah, I think it was definitely different from right when it happened to the teenage years. I think right when it happened, we were super fortunate to have both sides, my mom's new husband and my dad's new wife. They were both super accommodating. They were really trying to put their best foot forward, and they continued to do so throughout the whole relationship. I remember my stepmom would always go and walk us down to get froyo at the town square and try to really nurture a relationship with us. Also, my stepdad would always take care of our hamster with us and really try to create a bond. So we got lucky with that. They were really putting their best foot forward. That's why I think that right when it happened, we were like, oh, this is amazing. These people are super great and cool and great additions to our lives. And then as we got older, obviously hormones started getting involved, and we were going through puberty, and I think that as a teenager, you kind of see red when you see adults. It wasn't them in particular. It was just growing up. And I think I never felt like I had many issues with them, but tensions are always higher with parents, no matter what circumstance when you're
But when you get to the teenagers part of your life, when you guys went through it, is that gonna really affect to really think, and I said like at age 16, 17, because I experienced that with my daughter, that everything changed when she really turned into a teenager. It was tough, and after that, like a year and a half, it kind of got better. Do you think that timing is very important to go through that as a teenager, and then you start understanding, good or bad? It might work, it might not work. And do you think that's like important? Like that's gonna change things? Because I'm facing that. Like my son is 17, I haven't seen him for 9 months, and he's 17. I'm just thinking that, okay, is it gonna change? Maybe he goes to that time. Everybody that I ask, they say, wait, he's going to go through that, and he's going to get to the point that he say, oh, I have a father. I have a father that loves me so much, but other circumstances didn't let me to see him. Is that something, guys, you went through it, or you think that is it a kind of, not a law, but is something that everybody has to go through it?
I think everybody needs to go through it. I think you can speak to this.
I feel, I wish I wasn't so mean to my stepmom, like in my teenage years.
Oh, you I can't believe you can be me. You're so sweet.
I know. But as a teenager, I was not, there are some things that, I just feel like was so unnecessary. But obviously that was in that moment, that's all I felt. My feelings in that moment were valid as well. So, it definitely does take some maturing and growing up. However, I do think you should always, even if he's not accepting of you yet, just always let him know in some way that you're still there and you're still around. You know what I mean? Like, don't.
Because my philosophy is that, maybe, I don't know if you agree with it or not. Stepdad and stepmom, they're not going to replace your mom and dad. This is a fact.
Yeah.
This is a fact. But what I'm thinking is they're going to be there to support you and protect you and be a guidance, be a mentor, whatever. They're going to be there for you. They're not going to replace your mom and dad. And this is something that a lot of people, they don't think about. They said either A or B. But it's not like that. Like, this is very common, daddy issue. Did you guys have a daddy issue?
No, I feel like I had a pretty strong connection or relationship with my dad. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I did. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because our dad was always
He was
really
there. He was good.
Yeah, present.
How was your dad reaction when you said, oh, okay, that mom married and then I got a stepdad? What was his reaction? What did he give you any advice? Or he was just kind of neutral?
I remember when I was, as a teenager, having these thoughts in my head, I would tell him, like, oh, I want to just be with you. Because I'd say, I didn't like being over there at their house. And then he would tell me, he'd be like, Sara, that man does so much for you. My dad recognized that. He has always appreciated Bill and had a lot of gratitude towards him and what he's able to provide for us.
Because dads, they can be protective, especially when another man comes. And you have daughters.
Yeah.
That's very, that's a different situation. But I salute him, Reza, for that he was so open-minded and actually educate you and say, you got to respect the man. The same thing for you?
Yeah, I think he really trusted my mom's judgment, and he was going through it with us because it all kind of happened super quickly. It was just a communal decision that was what was going to happen to the family. And he met him too and really liked him. And all these conversations were had together at that point because we were living together. Up until the end of high school, we lived in separate houses, me and my sister. But we went through it together.
Yeah.
But the reality is this, girls. People get divorced, right? People get divorced. And for any reason, is it cheating, is not communicating, it's two different people. After the divorce, there are two different people living two different lives now. But one thing that I don't understand, maybe you can help me out with that. Why do you think they cannot be civilized? Because, okay, you did this, she did it, I did this, it's done, it's over. Now it's about the kids, it's about the children. If you are civilized, they're gonna have a better life. Otherwise, they're going to carry that bitterness to their own family, and their perspective is going to change. They're saying, I don't know, they're saying that divorced kids, they have a percentage of getting divorced in their lives too. But what is your perspective of, I'm not saying you might go through it, but okay, they got divorced for any reason. God, time out. Whatever happened, but we are here. Now it's about us. Did you have that kind of situation? Or what is your feedback on that?
Yeah, I think we were fortunate that nothing like crazy happened that they decided to separate. So there was no like animosity right off the get-go. I think if anything, the only reason maybe my mom and dad started having like tiffs with one another, or like the families were headbutting, was because we were misbehaving. And so and then they just like they were trying to deal with like raising two kids at the same time, like in different homes, and they went through times where they wouldn't speak to each other and they would only communicate through us, and like we would pack our bags every Friday to just go, and they would not communicate at all. And that was hard for sure, but they did end up figuring it out. Do you like know why?
I think it's because we grew
up.
Yeah. I think,
Because it was because of you guys, or they had things, because you just said it that they didn't talk for a while, and then they came to the senses that, okay, let's sit down and have a family talk.
I definitely think our teenage behavior growing up, like figuring things out, had something to do with the relationship. It played how they communicated with one another. I don't know if they were, trying to like blame each other for something, or like
they were first-time parents, like raising twins.
And twin
in
teenagers.
In
separate homes. Yeah.
What was the biggest thing that you were misbehaving? Like it was, what is it? Like now I'm just saying, like a resentment toward the parents, or just say, oh, I don't want to deal with this. I'm tired of going back and forth to houses, or what is this you guys created it for me? Because the divorced kids, always they're going to go blame the parents. You did this.
We always were just harping on and on about how our parents were too strict on us, which they were. They were Persian, Iranian parents. Like we didn't have phones like in high school.
Are you serious?
Yeah, like
wow.
I know, and they just really wanted to protect us so much that like they went to extremes, and then that was where the not resentment but like animosity was cultivated.
How did you deal with not having a phone in high school?
It was freshman and sophomore year. I think it was those 2 years, junior and senior. We figured it out. It was hard. It was hard. We tried to make the most of it, right? We would I'd go on the school email, and I'd email all my friends. Yeah. That's how I would communicate with everyone. It was kind of,
Go ahead, what you saying?
But I was just kind of going to touch on like the bright side of things. Like those years were definitely hard, but going back to what you were saying about like your son going through the hard time, like we are in a place with our parents that we've never been before, and it's truly like so bright and wonderful and like full of love. My mom and sister and I all consider each other best friends, so I think that just working through that time is so important, and realizing it's not the end. There's another side to cover.
There's another side. That gets me to tell you this, what I tell other people, divorced parents or people that are getting divorced, is this: never bout mouth your wife, ex-wife, or ex-husband in front of anybody else that, especially kids. Hey, your dad did this, your dad did that, your mom did this, your mom did that. Never say that, because that's not a good strategy.
Yeah.
You guys had experience with that? Or I'm sure, I know your mom, she's not that kind of person bad-mouthing your dad, but I think that would affect the kids, that sometimes the divorced couples don't understand that how important is that, regardless of what happened between you two. Do not badmouth each other.
I mean, I work with children, so I definitely
Yes.
Yeah, anything you say in front of them, they're sponges. They grab notice everything. If I come to school and I like didn't have my glasses on that day, that's the first thing they notice. Like, Sara, where are your glasses? You know, they observe everything. They know everything that's going on. So yeah, it's super important. I know our parents made an effort to make sure they weren't, you know, speaking badly about one another. I remember I would, you know, as we were teenagers, I would say something about my mom to my dad, and my dad would immediately like, stop it. You know, don't talk about her like that. That's your mother.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We were aware of their like position in relation to like what was like problems that were going on. Like we knew what they thought and like how they opposed each other's opinions and something.
Yeah.
So we were aware of that, but they tried to shield us from that.
That's the true civilization.
Yeah.
Like, you know, which is
true.
most of the divorced couple don't understand, as I say. And this is right now, it's happening a lot. I am one of them. And we have so many other people out there that they're listening and watching this. They all wonder that how kids, they can repair the relationship. Do you think, guys, the kids, like, you know, they're going through that, they can actually repair that relationship by talking to both parties, or you just have to let it go and they can figure it out?
I think it would be different in a situation if you had one parent, you know, like actively, you know, trying to get the child away from the other parent, you know, like telling them things at such an impressionable age at 17 years old, you know, like you were saying, like speaking poorly about the other parent in front of them. I feel like that would definitely, you know, play a role with how the child would perceive the other parent. So that's why I said in the like earlier of, yes, give him the space and the time to figure it out and grow up for himself, but then also still show him that you are there and that you are around, and just like the opposite of what his mother is telling him.
And it's very important that both parties, I think, to just mention that regardless of what happened, again, that's your father,
Yes.
that's your mother. Did you call?
Yes.
Did you go see him? This is what is not happening right now. The both parties, they not actually telling the kids that, hey, I know you don't like your father, but it's still your father. You got to call him. You got to go see him. Because this is the thing. If the father is a murderer or something they've done, I get it. But if you have a father or you have a, you know, stepmom or mom that they haven't done anything that bad, but it's still they're your parents.
Yeah.
And you still have to check on them. You have to call them, because one day you too, they're going to be mothers. And what are you going to tell your kids?
I think that, yeah, it's super important to have the relationship with both. So, like, just for the well-being of the child, like, you should be supportive of them having a relationship with both parties. Like, that's just human nature, like, what a child needs.
Because a child, like, they already don't know what's going on. You know, they're
They
still...
have no idea.
Yeah.
Like, not even in the terms of, like, in terms of the world, in terms of life. Like, they're figuring things out for the first time. And then having to, like... I feel like myself growing up and all the battles with myself that I had to overcome, if my parents were, like, bickering on top of that, I feel like that, you know, it would just have been such a challenge to, you know, overcome my own personal challenges.
Like being supportive or not supportive?
Not only supportive, just like knowing that my parents are just in conflict, and just like that's another aspect of my life there's conflict in, even though I have my own conflicts because I'm a teenager trying to figure out my role in the world, you know what I mean? So it's just an additional mind fog that doesn't need to be happening.
Basically, as a divorce, like couples, and we're living with the stepkids, we have to make sure that environment is so good that help you to grow, not damaging you, because you're already going through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And then bad things happen when you add more pressure to the existing situation that he or she is going through as a teenager. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, teenagers are already going through a bunch of stuff up here. You know, they have to figure it all out. You know, their hormones are changing. They need it's definitely, they need parents, you know, to help guide them through this transitional period.
And you know, some of the parents, they just say this: leave them alone. They will figure it out. Don't talk about it. But I think communication is a big part
Yeah.
of building any relationships. So, do you guys agree that communicating with your stepmom and dad, is it important when you see something or you're in the challenging situation, or you just let it go? Because some people say, I'm not going to talk about it. You have seen that. Hey, I don't want to get into it. I got so much things in my plate. I don't want to talk to it. It's not going to solve anything. Have you ever had that situation and you decided that, oh, I'm going to talk to my stepmom and dad rather than I'm just going to bury it?
Yeah, well, there are a few conversations that I actually would have preferred to have with my stepmom versus like with my dad. I'm like, or I'd tell her first. I'm like, can you break the blow to him? Can you tell him first before I do? You know, kind of thing. So.
How about you?
Yeah, this exact same thing with my stepmom. She was definitely like a mother figure who was also like less strict, so I could go to her with different problems. And then my stepdad, like, he's a genius, so I always like took school really seriously, so I would go to him all the time, and he gave me the best advice ever. So I was never shy to go to my stepparents at all, because they all were experts in different areas, and so I used them as like tools and like stepping stools to.
That's very, very interesting that you think that way, because I have talked to so many divorced kids and they don't look at it that way, because sometimes you have the people in your life, they can be your mentor or they can guide you. They can be your stepdad, for example, and we don't see it because we are too close to it, or we have so much pride. And we say, oh no, I can figure it out, rather than just go and ask and get better, which is you did that. That's so cool. But what advice do you have for any teenagers or the kids now, the parents going through a divorce and they are confused or they don't know what to do? Is there any prescription? I don't think so, but is there any way that they can step back and say, let me analyze this?
If I feel like I had friends in high school who their parents divorced later on in their lives, so then they were more resentful towards their new spouses and their parents' spouses. So I had to remind them a few times, like, is your parent happy? Just think about that. Does this new person in their life make them happy? Also, like, a new person in your life is just someone else to love you. It's just more love, you know? Why would you want to close yourself off to more, you know, like how you were saying with Bill and Tatiana, they were able to provide things that, you know, our parents might not necessarily have been able to.
Yeah.
So
we knew a few people who actually went through that and were not accepting of their parents' new partners, and I think it's just different person to person, like on like your attachment styles and whatnot. Also, I had friends when I was in high school and college that their parents split up because of infidelity, and that's like a much different conversation where there's a lot of anger and resentment towards like both parties, like just how they react. And what I saw, one of my really good friends, how she got through it is she really focused on herself. Like, she had to learn to meditate, take care of her organism, like make sure she's drinking water, eating the right foods, like moving her body, and like being able to control the things that you can control while your world is like spiraling out of control is really important. Like, just cling on to what you can and own it is what she did.
Do you think what you just explained to building up yourself, working on yourself, and going through that situation and being in that environment, is it going to help you to build your future, like as far as changing your perspective to life?
I think in the initial stages, she just had to go through it. There wasn't anything she could do.
I mean, in all situations, like, you have to first feel it, you know? Yeah. You have to feel the hard part of it. You have to feel the painfulness of it. And then you can start
face it.
Yes, and then you can start growing from that.
Why do you think some people, they run away from it?
Because it's hard. You know, it's hard to want to like deal with
your reality being flipped,
Yeah.
like upside down. Because that's, especially if you've seen your parents together up until like you're an adult, that's your whole world. Your family's your whole world. Your Thanksgivings, Christmases, any time you go home is going to look different now.
Okay. How you guys you handle, as you said, Thanksgiving, Christmas? How you handle that right now? Like you have 2 Christmases, 2 Thanksgivings, or
It's dynamic.
it's
that's really
Yeah.
like, oh, I have him for this Christmas, you have him for this, you know,
Yeah.
especially when you're younger,
Yeah.
you know, like the custody things. I don't believe custody. Like I say, if you want to share, we're all going to be there no matter what.
Yeah.
If you want to come on Wednesday, come on Wednesday, Tuesday, it doesn't matter. But I don't know, when some people, they say routine is good for the kids. What is your perspective on that?
Well, for Christmas at least, we were like fortunate to be very close to each other. So Christmas night we would be with my mom, and then we would drive to my dad's in the morning.
Yeah,
and
'cause they
then
both lived in San Diego in the same city at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were able to celebrate both with them. I feel like every year is a little different because
Now that
Bill,
we're
Bill, our stepdad has family up in the Bay Area, so we usually do Thanksgiving over with his family, and then I know that my stepmom's family lives like across the street from my dad's house or from their house.
So those are joined.
So then they always come and join us too. So not only are we, you know, hanging out with our step-parents, we're also hanging out with their families.
yeah.
With the family of the
Our
step,
step-parents,
Yeah,
yes.
you know,
And we have close relationships with
that's
all of,
another story.
yeah, Bill's grandkids and his children. We consider them like our cousins. We go see them once a year at least. So
Yeah, and
we-
there are step siblings.
yeah,
technically-
like Bill has his own kids that are our step siblings.
Basically, it's a melting pot.
Yeah, we're a
Yeah.
huge family. I always explain to people that I have 2 sets of parents, and
Yeah, I have 4 parents. And I think it like you said, dynamic. It just, we were so fortunate it worked out because our mom and our stepdad, they have like a bigger family with more cousins, but and our dad has, and our stepmom has like a smaller family. You know, it's just her sister and her husband and her mom, and so like they're more flexible. You know, like we're able to join them because it's always smaller, or we could go with the
yeah,
bigger
we're not
one.
missing.
We're not missing.
Bunch of,
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, you went through all this stuff.
We
It's
should
so,
have a whiteboard.
yeah, it's just, you know, it's so challenging. But do you think they're saying is the blood is really important? If you're not my blood, if you are my blood, is it really important?
No.
No.
I think you can have a family, you can have a chosen family, you know, like I don't think,
I don't think so. The, you know,
I don't think
blood
you need
is
to
so
be blood.
important. It says, oh, you are my blood, or he's not your blood. I think the way we build it, the way we define it, that will count.
I definitely like my nuclear family, or like I would do anything for, and like everyone outside, yeah, like I love them equally, but yeah, I guess it's different when like your closest people with your closest
Your
people.
immediate family.
Yeah, and I think it's just because we spend so much time together. But my like step siblings and like my external family, I feel just as strong the same way I feel like for my friends. I love them equally as much.
You know, when you say I love you to Bill, it's the same as you say I love you to Reza.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
That's so cool. There is no, you guys different. I'm saying is like, this is a blessing. I am telling you, if anybody listening or watching this show, I can tell you these 2 girls are amazing, because it's not easy to define it and live it and work it and grow through it. You guys, you went through it and you grow through it as well. And that's not easy, because I have seen so many nasty divorces, you know, and oh my God, the stepkids, the stepdads, and so many different weird things. But working it, I think, is not easy, but it's doable. But both parties, they have to sacrifice. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you guys sacrifice a lot?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
brought my suitcase to school every Friday.
That was great.
Packed with my favorite
Why?
clothes. I
we
just
would
didn't
go back and forth from each
Yeah,
house.
I
on
wanted
Fridays.
makeup and
You know,
like,
this was her teenage years.
Yeah.
You know, she
was very particular about like what.
And then how your friends reacted to that. Like your classmates said, "Hey, Delara, what is this? You know,
They
what?
expected
You're going
it.
to your what's going on here?" Because
Yeah.
it's a hard thing to understand
Yeah.
from outside perspective.
yeah.
I always tucked my like bags in a corner, like, and we would get there early so I could just hide it. And people would come, I'd pretend like it was like a sports bag, you know, like for PE and stuff. Nobody asked questions. My friends all knew what our situation was, so they're just like, oh, there's Delara with her suitcase again.
Yeah.
And it was just normal for us.
Yeah.
And I think it did make us smarter. I think it did make us stronger and able to like just pack up and like
Get
take
going.
life
Like,
as it is. And yeah, we've kind of just rolled with the punches because of like how we lived for so long.
You know, you guys, you think going through what you went through made you really stronger?
Definitely.
yeah.
Like it did change your perspective,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
like of a family, of relationships.
Yeah, it did. And I think it made me realize that like being with a partner and staying with a partner is a choice, and like you can love someone, but there's also like more factors that go into it.
Yeah.
Is that affecting your dating relationship too, your perspective?
I think it makes me pickier for
Yeah.
sure.
Really?
Yeah, knowing that I have.
Why?
Because like if I know that if my mom made the decision to up and leave because she was unhappy, like I would like to prevent as much as I can from making myself unhappy and having to go through that.
Yeah. You know, like, yeah, basically, it taught me that, you know, our parents, our mom and our dad had to come together.
They loved each other.
And then that was, you know, over, and it was time for them to find someone new. And both of them found a love that was even greater.
Yeah.
So, you know, it keeps me...
And more compatible. The
Yeah,
thing
more
is,
compatible.
like, the reason why it didn't work was just my mom is very type A and my dad is completely type B, just like my sister and I.
Yeah.
And that just is not a, like, dynamic that would work
But
realistically.
that doesn't mean they're bad people.
No,
No.
it's just different.
It's just
Yeah.
different.
They need to
And
find
now
someone...
my stepdad and my biological mom are completely type A lifestyles together. And my dad and his
Really?
stepwife are both type B. Very like relaxed and go with the
They
flow.
play pickleball every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
they
my
chill.
mom is like going to Columbia, like starting her own business, and like that's something
Very
what
entrepreneurial.
Bill
Yeah.
likes to do too.
Yeah,
so
so
and they're
they're
so
fun.
happy.
They're both very
Yeah.
happy, both of them.
Yeah.
All four of them are really happy.
That's cool because now everything works in harmony.
It just makes more sense.
everything's-
But I can tell you that both parties, they put a lot of work to it. It would not happen. You know that it
Yeah,
would not happen
absolutely.
without, you know, putting a lot of work to it from your side, or from the parents' side.
Yeah, I definitely know that they made lots of sacrifices to make sure things were able to be good between
How
all
about
of
this?
us.
If you guys are getting married, you have grands. They're gonna have two grandparents. How you gonna do that? Like, what is the timing on that? It's so funny when I ask that because you know I'm going through that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I will go through it, but it's so funny.
Yeah. I guess it depends like where we're living at the time when we have kids. I would like for them all to be within 10 miles of me, but at this point it doesn't seem like my dad's leaving California and my mom loves it here.
Explain to your kids, hey, let me tell you,
Yeah.
you have two grandfather and you
Yeah.
have two grandmothers.
I
Yeah.
think, technically they would have 3 sets with the other
hus-
partner.
Yeah,
Oh,
who
you're
knows if-
right. You
Yeah.
have
Who
three.
knows if their parents are
Yeah.
divorced too? In this day and age, I feel like it's so common.
Yeah.
Everyone's getting. It's not like how it used to be. I feel like divorce is a
Yeah.
lot more
And
common.
if they have divorced parents, then they have 4 sets of grandparents.
yeah, it's just a big family.
Basically, right now, this is what's happening. A lot of divorces are happening, and a lot of stepkids, stepdads, stepmoms. What really matters is the love, respect, communication, and build a good environment for everybody. Is that
Yeah.
you know.
Exactly.
Is that fair?
As parents, you're supposed to provide a loving and nurturing home for your child. And whether it's, it doesn't have to be one home, but just a nurturing environment. Mm-hmm. And if that means that you have to, suck it up and be friends with your ex's new partner, then that's just what you have to do. It's priority.
And as exes, they have to respect each other's too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, my like I said, my dad respects my mom and respects Bill a lot. It's the way Bill respects my dad, and vice versa with my stepmom as well. So that they respect each other.
And since you work with the kids, is that really not changing your opinion, but is it helping? Like you said, okay, I went through this and I'm working with the kids.
Yeah. Well, I work with 4-year-olds, so they're not really going through that yet, or they're just not aware of it. But definitely, it makes me more aware or more intentional with how I interact with them. And just, I try to provide a nurturing environment at school because you never know what might be going on at home.
But again, right now, people are going through it. What is your advice for the kids that are going through right now? What they have to do?
At any age?
Any age, like, not any age, like, they're especially teenagers and, they have a good steps, bad steps. They're confused. They're frustrated. Mom, I don't know what the heck you did. I really don't like him, or I don't like her. What they have to do? Step back, think about it, go through it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that really remembering that this is your parents' first time going through it too. It's like they're humans as well. I think we are taught to think that your parents are like the end all be all, know everything, knowledge holders, but that's not the case. Yeah, there's some really young parents out there too that are figuring it out along with you. And your step partner, like, unless there's a real reason where their new spouse should not be trusted, I think you should try and get to know them and understand like why they've fallen in love with your parent and be grateful for that. Like thinking about my dad or mom be alone, like would break my heart more than them, any partner.
Just thinking about either my parents alone, I'm just very grateful that they have someone, by their side. They're not alone. And I think that's very important for kids to consider, just like take a step back, because I know as a teenager, the main focus is yourself, but it's time to take a step back. Your parent chose this person for a reason. You have to trust your parent. Yeah.
Like it would be kind of them saying, "Oh no, you can't." I mean, obviously they're a little bit wiser than we are, but like imagine if your parent was telling you like who you could or could not be with it when you're an adult, and like your full knowing and your frontal lobe has developed. Yeah.
And some parents, they try to do that, but they get rejected. Do you think those ex-parents, ex-stepmom, stepdad, they have to give that kid a chance to catch up, co-op? What they have to do?
Continue to try
to give that love
yourself.
And attention.
Yeah, and if it's really not resonating like with the kid, then maybe try and do the extra mile for a little bit and see if that works, and like identify what this is more for the step parent, like identify what the kids' interests are and like think about like showing them the love that they want to receive. And
the last questions, I love this discussion. Do you think with all this stuff you girls went through, is it gonna affect the person you're gonna choose to live with? And why?
Yeah, I mean, I need,
Have you ever experienced that?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Just in dating, I definitely consider, like what I said, I just will not settle, and I'll need to make sure that they check every box so I don't have to go through that. Like it was just a little bit, I think it was an extra step that didn't need to happen. Like if my mom could have filtered through a little bit easier in the beginning. She wouldn't have had to like.
How about you, Sarah? You have check marks, and it says, "Okay, I went
Yeah.
through all this,
Yeah,
and now
I mean,
that opened my eyes."
it definitely does make me pickier.
Really?
It was a reminder that, like she said, don't settle. It's a reminder that what you have, if you're not happy right now, there's something else out there,
Yeah.
and everyone, will benefit from it.
One thing I know that, especially for the girls, if you have a stepdad and you come at the early age to, he's coming to your life in the early age, they will role model that stepdad for the future guy they're gonna be with. Is that kind of?
I mean, yeah, I would love to get marry a man like Bill. He's very, just
Like my daughter, I think she's kind of modeling me because I give her a lot of attentions, daddy's girl, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Do that a lot of it. We talk about everything. I think she's getting to the point that she's going to start comparing, oh, this guy doesn't,
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
I asked her and she said, yeah, it's like that.
Oh, okay. I see. I definitely hold guys to standards. If in my head, if they can't do something, I'm like, oh, I know Bill can. Oh, I know my dad can.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, I don't need your help. My dad can do it. That's fine.
Yes, that's what. For you, the same?
Yeah, definitely. Like I look up to both of my parents for sure. My step parents. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. But thank you so much. I know you guys, you came all the way from Houston tired, but thank you for being here, And if our listeners, if you're listening, you're watching this, please share it. There's a lot of good points are here to share and educate other people because things happen when we're all coming together and educate one another. And if somebody listens to this, might got some advice from you guys, which is a lot of good advice you just gave. And that would change a lot of people's life. But thank you so much for being here. I had such a great time.
Thank you. I did too.
You guys are amazing.
Thanks. This was a really cool experience.
Thank you guys.